Solo leveling is here, and I can confidently say that these past few weeks, it has been taking the anime world by storm. The story of Jin Woo is finally being animated, and we are in for a treat. We are currently witnessing the weakest hunter in history in his journey to become the strongest hunter, not only in one area, but pretty much in every hunter aspect known to man. You see, normally each hunter excels at a certain fighting style. Anyone but Sun Goat, of course. However, what exactly are these hunter types anyway? Well, there are 6 different hunter types and another 2 secret special ones. And today, we'll be explaining all of them. The first hunter type is what's known as the fighters. Fighter type hunters are able to deal large amounts of damage to their opponents and typically engage in standard melee combat. They also have fairly high defense and good stamina. Since they're brawlers, fighters generally use weapons like swords, axes, knives, and even their bare hands. Some examples include the likes of the A-rank hunter Wu Jin-Chul that was able to punch one of the architect's immensely durable statues without breaking his fingers. If that does not show how improved the physical abilities of fighters are, then I don't know what does. After all, not all hunters can perform similar feats. Not only that, but Jin-Chul was even able to narrowly dodge the Statue of God's heat vision, showing that his speed is no joke as well. Even though Jin-Chul's abilities are no joke, a better display of the fighter's real abilities are shown through the likes of the S-rank hunter Cha Hae-In. Other than her normal abilities being increased, Hunter Cha is also sensitive to the smell of mana, causing hunters and monsters to smell bad to her. Jin Woo is the only known hunter who does not smell bad to her, due to his status as the player of the system. When it comes to her swordsman skill, she is no joke there as well. Cha is proficient at swordsmanship and is able to come up with creative and unorthodox ways to kill monsters efficiently. As a testament to her sword fighting skills, she was able to easily defeat Igris during their sparring session. Some of her other abilities as an S-rank include enhanced strength, as Cha was able to easily defeat Igris in their sparring match, hit Kumamoto in the face with enough force to make him bleed, and decapitate the Ant Queen with one swing of her sword. Her speed is also greatly enhanced as well, to a point that Cha can move at such speeds that she made a name for herself among the Korean hunting community for just how fast she is in battle. She was also able to easily dodge Igris' attacks, pummel Kumamoto before he could even react, overwhelm Kane with her movements, and even dodge some of Beru's attacks during their sparring match. Yeah, it should be noted that Beru was holding back, but still, enhanced durability is another trait of hers, as Cha was able to stay alive for a significant amount of time after the Ant King ruptured some of her organs. Her high durability is also evidenced by the fact that she could continue moving at top speed even after the architect cut clean through her shoulder. I mean, she even displayed another ability unique to her, the ability to create this special subscribe button for you to click. The Sword of Light is a move unique to just her, where Hunter Cha can transform her sword into pure light, significantly increasing her cutting power. It's true that some of the strongest hunters are indeed in the fighters category, as hunters like Gyoto Ryuji and Baek Yun-ho also excel for their abilities as fighters. The second category is what's known as mages. Mage-type hunters are the most versatile among the hunters. They are able to cast elemental spells, enact curses, and call forth spirits to fight for them. As a result, a large portion of their abilities are projectile attacks. However, since they attack from a distance, mage-type hunters are at a huge disadvantage in close combat. The only known exception to that is, of course, Jin Woo, and that because his mage abilities are just one small part of his numerous abilities heightened to their maximum. Mages are able to use elemental spells, as the vast majority of mages can use these spells to shoot off blasts of fire, ice, water, and all sorts of things. It should be noted lightning spells are something only top-tier mages can do. And yeah, Jin Woo has numerous shadows that use lightning spells with every swing of their swords. So once again, Jin Woo is unfair to fight against. Mages also often use what's known as curse magic, as these are spells that can restrain or negatively affect the intended target's performance. Now, when it comes to summoning magic, things start to get interesting once again. But why? Well, hear this. Mages can summon creatures to aid them in battle. However, as noted by Cha Hae-In, most mage-type hunters can only summon 1 or 2 creatures at best before running out of mana. When compared to Jin Woo, yeah, that's once again child's play in front of him, as Jin Woo can summon tens, then hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of shadows at the same time. The next ability of mages is that they cast barrier spells to defend themselves or to trap their opponents. A prime example of that ability is the Russian S-rank hunter Yuri Orlov. As an S-rank mage, Orlov was exceptionally skilled in casting barriers. His powers were also potent enough to allow him to sense Song Il-hwan's presence, although he was not able to pinpoint the latter's exact location. Also, since Orlov specialized in defense and not offense, he was not much of a fighter. Orlov was able to create a magical barrier that could completely restrain both Kane and Hoshino from moving. He was also capable of making it self-sufficient and large enough to the point that it would completely block off an S-rank gate, although doing so required over 100,000 tons of mana crystals. However, it was not strong enough to hold up against the giants in Tokyo, as one managed to destroy it in a single strike. Those giants seem pretty strong, right? Well, even they were nothing in front of Jin Woo's powers. So far, we covered both fighters and mages, and as we saw, Jin Woo was on a whole different level when it comes to both of these abilities. But what about the other types? Well, the third category category of hunters is what's known as assassins. Assassins are swift and agile and are considered to be the fastest hunters around. They typically fight with smaller weapons like daggers or hidden blades. Their speed can make them hard to hit by hunters of other classes. Mages in particular are at a disadvantage against them due to the time it takes to cast their spells. Only Jin Woo was the exception of being a mage with an advantage against assassins due to his status as the player of the system and the rest of his overpowered arsenal that was not limited to just mage-based attacks. One of the special abilities of the assassins now is stealth. You see, stealth allows its user to physically blend in with their surroundings and hide all traces of their presence, essentially turning themselves both physically and magically invisible. Although this skill can be very handy in battle, it is also taxing on the user's mana reserves, as it costs 200 mana to activate alone and consumes 10 mana for every second it stays active afterwards. When it comes to assassin hunters, we only know two of them, Kang Taeshik and Ipei Izawa. As a B-rank assassin-type hunter, Taeshik was inhumanly fast, to the point that he was able to easily defeat Song Chi-yul, even though the latter had received a strength buff from Juhi. He was also strong enough to clash evenly with Jin Woo at the time and resist the toxic effects of Kasaka's Venom Fang. Using stealth, Taeshik was able to camouflage with his surroundings and hide all traces of his presence, essentially turning himself both physically and magically invisible. Was that enough to defeat Song Jin Woo though? Not quite, because even though Jin Woo was nowhere near his full power at that point, he still managed to defeat this opponent as well. But when it comes to the second note assassin, we have Ipei Izawa, a Japanese S-rank hunter under the Draw Sword Guild. But how do the abilities of an S-rank assassin look? Well, hear this. Ipei was so fast that he was able to travel with such speed that it seemed like he was practically flying across Jeju Island. But was his speed comparable to Song Jin Woo? Once again, not even close. Next, we have the fourth hunter type, what's known as tankers. What is their specialty? Well, as the name suggests, they are hunters that specialize in defense. As they specialize in defense, tankers generally carry shields and are tasked with shielding the rest of the team during raids so that the other hunters can perform their roles. Compared to other classes, tankers are much more durable and are able to take much more punishment in battle before going down. However, while defense is their greatest strength, tankers can still go on the offensive too with little trouble. The vast majority of tankers are able to taunt their enemies, which magically induces them into attacking without thinking. However, it should be noted that this skill only works on enemies that are weaker than the tanker themselves. The most prime example of a tanker is Thomas Andre, the strongest hunter in America and one of the 5 national level hunters, ranking first in the world. But since Thomas Andre also falls within one of the 2 secret hunter types as well, we'll speak more about him in a bit. Another tanker is Yu Jin-ho. As a D-rank tanker, Jin-ho is somewhat weak for a hunter and has little battle experience due to the fact that Jin Woo is typically the one who does all the fighting during their raids together. However, he was strong enough to shield an elderly couple from falling building debris during the Tokyo crisis and was durable enough to stay conscious even when Hwang Dong-soo brutally tortured him. A great example, on the other hand, of a tanker hunter is none other than Kim Chul. After all, he was an A-rank hunter while alive, that is before becoming one of Jin Woo's shadows, Iron. Besides his defensive attributes, Kim did possess certain offensive moves as well, as he was proficient in axemanship. However, due to his nature as a tanker, his most noteworthy attributes were obviously his strength and durability. Chul was able to kill a group of ice bears all on his own and wield a massive shield about as large as he was with ease. Not to mention that he was able to tank attacks from a group of ice bears with ease and was physically unharmed when Jin Woo sent him flying onto the tree, although he did get knocked out of the process. Moving on to the 5th hunter type, what's known as the Rangers. You see, Rangers are hunters who specialize in archery magic. Although both mages and Rangers attack from a distance, they differ in that Rangers specialize in physical and not magical attacks. As a result, they generally wield bows and arrows and are tasked with covering the blind spots of their allies during raids. Unfortunately, this also means that they are at a huge disadvantage in close combat. Truth be told, in the manhwa, we only see one Ranger, and that is Lim Tae-yu. As an S-rank hunter, Lim was the best Ranger-type hunter in Korea and performed well in battle even without his bow. However, this also meant that he worked best from a distance and was at a tremendous disadvantage in close combat. He was also shown to be weak for his rank, given by how easily Hoshido was able to defeat him in their sparring match. Lim can instantaneously create magic arrows from his hands, with which he is very skilled. After all, he was able to deliver precise shots to his opponent's weak spots whenever he was given a chance. These arrows pack a good punch and were able not only to damage the interior of the Korean hunter's gym with little trouble, but also easily pierce through the Ant Queen's skin. Truth be told, we didn't really see Song Jin Woo using arrows, but I'm pretty sure that if needed, he was more than capable of doing that as well. At the end of the day, his overpowered abilities just gave him other alternatives that were by far better at long-distance fights compared to using arrows. Moving on to the 6th hunter type, the healers. Unlike other classes, healers usually serve as support and rely on damage dealers to protect them in battle. Although they mainly specialize in healing other hunters of their injuries, healers are also able to cast buff magic in order to enhance both their own abilities and the abilities of their teammates. However, since they mainly use their abilities for support, they are generally at a huge disadvantage in battle. We saw this happening with the likes of Liu Zhighang, that despite being a B rank healer, she was still the weakest when it comes to fighting potency during the double dungeon incident. But even like that, as a B rank, Zhighang is a skilled healer and was able to heal Jin Woo on multiple occasions with little trouble. She was also able to use buff magic, as displayed when she gave Jin Woo a haste buff during his fight with Kang Tae-shi. But the best example of a healer is none other than Min Byung-gyu. After all, he was S-ranked for a reason. As an S-ranked healer, Byung-gyu was a master at healing magic and could almost instantly heal his fellow hunters, even from severe wounds. According to himself, he also had the combat ability of an A rank. Byung-gyu was able to instantly heal Big and Ma Dong-wook back to prime condition after the Ant Queen spit poison all over them. He was also able to quickly grow back Ma's arms after the Ant King ripped them off and easily healed Cha back to full health from the brink of death. His buff magic was so advanced that he was able to significantly help the rest of his crew power up. Plus, while using disguise, Byung-gyu was able to blend in with his surroundings and hide all traces of his presence, essentially turning himself both physically and magically invisible. However, he was unable to move whenever he had this skill active, making him an easy target if the enemy was able to track his position. How does Jin Woo do in that area? Well, once again, he is at least in the S rank level as well. Even though Jin Woo was not as good as Byung-gyu during the Jeju Island incident, and thus needed the help from him in order to save the life of Hunter Cha, by the end of the series, he was able to heal injuries and diseases that not even S rank hunters were able to do. And now, we finally reach the last two hunter types that, although unofficial, they did deserve their own group in today's video. This type is none other than the Vessels. You see, strong hunters can become the vessels of the rulers or the monarchs. But why do these entities need hosts in the first place? You see, because their bodies are spiritual and not physical, they need to use the bodies of strong hunters in order to be able to descend on Earth. In order to appear in the real world, they must manifest in a physical body. Otherwise, they just wouldn't exist physically. But you see, there is a key difference in the way these two supreme beings are hosted in the hunters' bodies. And here, we enter the seventh hunter type, the Vessels of the Rulers. Hear this, the rulers are an ancient race of angelic humanoids and the arch enemies of the monarchs. The difference between the Vessels of Rulers and the Vessels of Monarchs is that rulers don't fully take over the bodies in which they inhabit, instead choosing to give them a fraction of their power, and thus hunters retain full control over their bodies. In most cases, they are not even aware that they are hosting rulers in their bodies. An example of a ruler vessel is none other than Thomas Andre. As we mentioned earlier, despite technically being a tanker, Thomas Andre is not limited to just the abilities of a normal tanker, and that's because of him being the vessel of a ruler. Thomas Andre possesses immense physical strength. As a testament of this, he was able to send Jin Woo flying with one punch, bring down buildings just from the wind pressure generated from his attacks, and fight evenly against Rakan. His durability is not a joke either, as he is able to withstand a ridiculous amount of punishment even from opponents far stronger than himself, without slowing down in combat. He was able to continue fighting against Jin Woo even after the latter broke his arm and threw him through several buildings, and was completely unharmed when Rakan tried to slash him with his claws. But most importantly, and evidence of the fact that Andre gained new abilities because of him hosting a ruler in his body, was that he gained the ability to telekinetically pull in objects towards himself, an ability that does not normally appear in tankers. According to Jin Woo, with reinforcement activated, this attack is almost like a black hole in potency, and he would have been sucked in had he not been able to use ruler's authority himself. As a further testament to the sheer might of this attack, it was able to pull Kamish out of the sky. Another similar case like Thomas Andre was Liu Zhighang, that was a Chinese national level hunter, and similarly vessel of a ruler as well. Same thing with Christopher Reed, Sung Il Hwan, aka Jin Woo's father, Chairman Go Gong-hee, and Jonas, all of which were either S rank or national level hunters, and as a result of their powers being heightened after receiving powers from the rulers. And next, we have the 8th type of hunters in solo leveling, and the most unique type. But why unique? Well, hear me out. As we explained, rulers do not fully take over the hunters' bodies. They are just partially hosted in their bodies and help the hunters become stronger even without them knowing most of the time. However, what monarchs do is that they fully take over a human body and make it their own. That is, except the shadow monarch Ashborn, who chose to leave Sung Jin Woo in full control by gradually training his body in order to become capable of fully hosting his powers. Because of that, Sung Jin Woo became the first and only case of a hunter fully merging with a monarch without being assimilated by that monarch, but rather keep full control. The result, a hunter so broken that has all the abilities of the 6 hunter types, so advanced that even if Sung Jin Woo were to use abilities from only one of these hunter types, he could still defeat any hunter in the world on his own. And that's not even counting his thousands of shadows, some of which could literally destroy the entire Earth on their own. Having said all that, how strong is Sung Jin Woo really? Is he stronger than Gojo Satoru? Well, check out this video where we present what would have happened if Gojo Satoru fought against different characters from other anime series, including Sung Jin Woo. Go on, check it out!